Before we begin, there are some spoilers in this review. Nothing incredibly major, but there are some spoilers nonetheless. I'm going to be flat out honest with you all right off the bat. This is going to be an interesting review because I have a love-hate relationship with Neo: The World Ends With You. At times, I absolutely love the gameplay, but the story is incredibly frustrating. However, at the same time, the gameplay can be incredibly frustrating and the story can be awesome. See? I told you this is going to be interesting. Usually when I start a game, I try to play it to the fullest, and if I feel like the Platinum Trophy is obtainable, I'll go for it. Neo: The World Ends With You certainly has a Platinum Trophy that can be easily obtained, but having now completed the campaign, I'm kind of ready to move on to something else for a while. Hello everyone, my name is Brent, and this is my review for Neo: The World Ends With You. Neo: The World Ends With You is the sequel to The World Ends With You, a game that was originally on the Nintendo DS. The story follows Rindo and his friend Fret as they are thrown into what is called the Reaper's Game, a game where the recently deceased have a chance to compete for a second chance at life. The winners at the end of any given week can make any wish they choose and it will be granted, while the team that comes in last place faces erasure. As the story progresses, Rindo and Fret gain more party members including Nagi, a gaming nerd, Beat, a former Reaper player himself, Shoka, a former Reaper, and Neku from the original game returns to round out the party. Each of these characters have their own special abilities as well. Rindo can travel through time, Fret can remind people of things that they have forgotten, Nagi can dive into the minds of civilians, Beat can make you run faster, and Shoka can teleport you to the top of certain buildings. Throughout the game, Rindo and his party have to fight off Noise, which are monsters that exist in the Reaper's game, along with completing daily tasks in order to gain points and move up in the Reaper game's rankings. As things begin to unfold, Rindo and his team realize that completing the Reaper's game and coming out alive is harder than they could have imagined. I'm going to contradict my intro and say that there's definitely something special about this game. It's definitely fun. I think the issue that I had with it is its presentation. I felt like what I was playing was a PlayStation 2 game. Before I get into that, I want to say that the gameplay is solid. In combat, each party member is assigned an ability pin, and each pin is associated with a button on your controller. So while you're in combat and when you're pressing down on the button that the pin is assigned to, the character with the pin equipped comes up and uses that ability until it runs out of juice, and then it goes into a cooldown period. I should clarify what I mentioned in the intro and the reason why the gameplay can be frustrating at times, and that's because if you have a pin loadout that isn't synergistic and with awkward cooldown periods, it'll make longer combat scenarios incredibly frustrating. So always make sure that when you're doing important story missions that you have a pin loadout that best suits your playstyle. There's a lot of different pins to choose from. There's both instant melee and ranged options, along with melee and ranged options that require a charge up period. And of course, there's healing and stat boost pins as well. With literally hundreds of different pins, there's even more variations in which you can equip them to your characters, allowing the combat to remain engaging throughout. Furthermore, the game has its typical clothing system that boosts your stats and a skills tree of sorts. As you play the game and complete side quests for various characters, you unlock them on your social network tree, and by spending friend points, you can unlock those characters' perks. As I mentioned before, the game feels dated. Most of the cutscenes that you engage in are text only, and there's a lot of them. I know that might sound like a weird gripe, but these text only cutscenes really slow the game down to a weird pace, especially in the beginning of the game. With the kind of technology that's backing video games in this day and age, I feel like text-based cutscenes should be a thing of the past, and games should have more voice acting, and this game has some solid voice acting. Don't get me wrong, I understand that there are some games that warrant those sort of things, like indie games such as Hollow Knight and Celeste, or games that are so long with so many branching cutscenes that some of them have to be text only, like the Persona games. However, in a game that is rather linear and most of the cutscenes are within the story like Neo: The World Ends With You, there should have been significantly more audio in those cutscenes. One other thing that makes the game feel a bit dated is the camera. It's not necessarily a fixed camera because it does follow you, but there's no rotating it. I'm not going to complain about it too much because it's something that I got used to after playing the game for several hours. But at the beginning, it was something I very much had to get used to. In my intro, I also stated that generally I'll go for the Platinum Trophy for a game if it's easily obtainable. Now, to be clear, the Platinum in Neo: The World's End With You is pretty easy to get, but it's a grind, and it's a grind I really don't want to do right now. The biggest holdup for me right now is that there is a total of 333 pins in the game, and you have to collect all of them, and in order to collect all of them, you have to play through pretty much the whole game again on ultimate difficulty. On top of that, you have to also master at least 300 of them, and with certain pins having various levels of difficulty when it comes to mastering them, it feels like an incredibly daunting task that I don't want to put myself through at the moment. But that doesn't mean that I won't come back to it in the future after I've had some time to play other things. All in all, Neo The World Ends With You is a fun game with fun combat, with frequent text-based cutscenes that affect the pacing of an intriguing story. I do want to make it absolutely clear here, I do not dislike the story of the game. I thought it was incredibly engaging. I was just constantly being thrown off by all the text cutscenes. Okay, in any case, I'm going to stop talking about the cutscenes now and wrap things up. Well, everyone, I hope that you enjoyed this review, and if you've played Neo The World Ends With You, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the game in the comments section below. And if you did enjoy this review, please consider liking and subscribing to Work in Progress for more videos like this one. Thanks, everyone. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one.